Oh, hello, everybody. We are back live, and there are big updates on 5G for your cell phones. Now, major airlines are warning of catastrophic effects on air travel with the full implementation of 5G through Verizon and AT&T on Wednesday. This as reported by Reuters. Now, there was an interesting case in the U.S. Court of Appeals, DC Circuit Court, that went through the courts in 2021 that I think received very little news coverage, and it involved Robert F. Kennedy and the Children's Defense Fund. They were challenging the FCC and saying, we disagree with why you guys think that you shouldn't update your rules on radio frequency that haven't been updated since 1996. And the FCC was saying, look, we're just listening to FDA, and FDA says we're all good. Never mind that cell phone technology has developed a lot. 5G has come onto the scene. But they're saying we still don't need to update since 96. So that's an interesting court case. There was a document filed in that case just on Friday that I'm going to show you guys, because it deals with health effects on humans, animals, and the environment in regards to 5G. So we don't, we don't talk conspiracy theories. We talk court documents and official word from the airlines, as reported by Reuters. We're gonna jump into what's out there in the forefront in regards to 5G. Oh, and by the way, 6G will be rolling out in the coming years, as announced by China. We're going to get into that as well. Yeah, China's on the forefront of 6G internet speeds and cell service. So before we jump into it, I'm going to shout out the sponsor of my coverage, which is Noble Gold. Now, something's not adding up. Is it stocks are at record highs, but the government just borrowed $5 trillion. Inflation is transitory, but just went up 6.8%. How much did your wages go up? Gas, electricity? A precious metals IRA with Noble Gold will help you avoid the worst of this. And this month, Noble Gold is giving away a free 1/10 ounce solid gold American Eagle coin with any qualifying plan you start. I actually have one of those coins here, pure gold, and it's crazy how small this is. Yet it says $5. It says it's a $5 coin. It's much smaller than a penny, actually. So that's how big the value of gold is in comparison to the depreciating value of the dollar and the penny. Anyway, you can call Noble Gold at 877-646-5347 or visit noblegoldinvestments.com. Link in description. Like I said, they'll send you one of these as well when you sign up to protect your money in a precious metal IRA. So what's up, guys? Let me know if you can hear me okay. How many of you guys have the new iPhone, the 13, 5G iPhone 13? I actually turned off the 5G on mine. I don't know if you guys realize you can do that, but I got the new phone. It was really glitchy. It's overhyped. 5G, it said 5G on there. It said I was using 5G at the time. And it was not any quicker. My internet on here was not any better. My cell phone service was not any better. In fact, it was a little worse. So I turned it off in hopes of having a better operating phone. I'd really like to turn this phone in for a flip phone now, but that's for a plethora of reasons. Anyway, in the settings, you can turn off the 5G, but people told me at the time that maybe one way my phone was not working as well is because 5G had not been fully deployed in America. Apparently 5G, it looks from the headlines that 5G is going to be fully deployed on Wednesday of this week, and the airlines are panicking because of it. Now, we're going to get into the headlines about how flights could seriously be grounded. due to the 5G radio frequency interference with the airplane technology, preventing pilots from flying the plane safely. But before I get into that, now when this new phone came in the mail, the supply chain issue, the phones aren't even in the stores right now, but it shows up in the mail, and this thing falls out of the phone of the phone box, and the front page of this thing says exposure to radio frequency. See, it's a little iPhone pamphlet here. Exposure to radio frequency on iPhone. Go to settings, general, legal and regulatory, RF exposure, or go to apple.com/legal/RF exposure. You go to that page on apple.com and they warn you of higher levels of radio frequency with this phone, but they say, hey, we're still within the legal limit. But if you do want to reduce radio frequency against your head or against your body when you're either talking on the phone or carrying it, they recommended talking on your phone with speakerphone. That way it's not right up against your brain, radiating your brain. So that was pretty stunning coming straight from Apple. I'd like to switch to a flip phone, I think, especially with the fact that this phone is not impressive compared to my, I upgraded from my iPhone 10. This one's not even, it's no better. It's literally no better than the iPhone 10. Super disappointed in Apple. Anyway, let's get to the Reuters headline on this. Reuters breaking the story today. Exclusive: major U.S. airline CEOs warn 5G could ground some planes, wreak havoc. The chief executives of major U.S. passenger and cargo carriers on Monday warned of an impending catastrophic aviation crisis on Wednesday when AT&T and Verizon are set to deploy new 5G service. The airlines warned the new C-band 5G service could potentially make a significant number of wide-body aircraft unusable and could potentially strand tens of thousands of Americans overseas. Quote, unless our major hubs are cleared to fly, the vast majority of the traveling and shipping public will essentially be grounded, wrote the chief executives of American Airlines, Delta, United, Southwest, and others. The FAA has warned that potential interference could affect sensitive airplane instruments such as altimeters and impact on low visibility operations. It's very interesting stuff. I don't know if you guys have 5G phones yet, and what you guys think of all this. Now, I was like, okay, why are the airlines panicking? Right, 2 days before, weren't they given a heads up? Well, they were given a heads up, actually. Now, there's headlines from 2 weeks ago about a legal battle in regards to this. The airlines have been duking it out with AT&T and Verizon for some time now, because this is a whole new powerful frequency that's going to interfere with the airplanes. We'll get into the health effects that have been going through court as well. Definitely people concerned this is interfering with health effects as well. But let's look at this headline from a couple weeks ago. 2-week delay given. It says here, airlines and wireless companies announced deal on 5G deployment. 2-week delay gives the FAA more time to explore safety measures. Airlines and the telecommunications industry appeared to reach a detente last Monday in what had become an increasingly harsh disagreement over the scheduled Wednesday deployment of 5G technology using bandwidth that airlines said threatened the safety of air travel. So it was 2 weeks ago that they were supposed to fully deploy this 5G technology, and it was delayed by 2 weeks until this week. And now the airlines are in a tizzy again. They had 2 weeks to sort out their kinks and make sure that their tech was good to go, but apparently the airlines couldn't sort that out in 2 weeks. It says both Verizon and AT&T which bought a section of bandwidth last February for more than $80 billion, agreed to a 2-week delay before using the frequencies, given the Federal Aviation Administration time to explore measures to ensure that it wouldn't interfere with radar altimeters, which airplanes and helicopter pilots use to help navigate during low visibility situations. The wireless companies on Monday agreed to measures comparable to those used in Europe to avoid interference. So I'm not sure why. The airlines were not able to sort anything out in those 2 weeks, but now they're saying there's going to be a major issue. They're talking to Pete Buttigieg about this, and the FCC, trying to figure out how they can, actually let their airplanes operate safely with these newly deployed signals, more powerful bandwidth, both for your cell phones and your computers. Tech experts have been excited about download speeds, fast streaming. It's supposed to be the future of the internet, both on your phone and on your computer, especially since people in the pandemic have all moved online. I know that when I started working from home, I was constantly seeing internet outages, probably because everyone was working from home. And things got really overloaded. So people are hoping that 5G will speed everything up. But it is a higher frequency. It is more radiation. And there is a legal warning from Apple about the radiation, both on your phone and on your computers. And a lot of people are concerned about that. And the Children's Health Defense Fund, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., they've been kind of pushing for some safety in regards to this. They did file a court case. They filed an appeal in the U.S. District Court of Appeals, Washington, D.C., asking that we take another look at whether this 1996 health and safety guidance is really up to date. So that went through the U.S. District Court of Appeals, D.C. Circuit Court in 2021, and actually it was the Children's Health Defense that won out against the FCC. And I don't know why this wasn't in the news, but the Court of Appeals ruled that the FCC does not even have an argument. They came to court with an argument. Well, the FDA said that we don't need to update our safety guidance from 1996. And the FDA their argument is just trust us. We're the FDA, basically. And the Court of Appeals said that doesn't do it for us. You got to come back to us with a real argument. So that was in August 13th of 2021 that the Court of Appeals made that ruling. And actually just on Friday, there was another court filing in regards to that case. I'm going to show you that court document, so you know I'm not making this up. This is an update to the case. You can see it's dated the 14th of this month. Court of Appeals for District of Columbia Circuit Environmental Health Trust et al. That includes Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Versus the Federal Communications Commission in the United States of America. Now, the petitioners, Environmental Health Trust, they came back to court saying, hey, now that we won the case, we want the USA and the FCC to pay our legal bills. So that's why this latest filing is on the record here. And actually, the court ruled that the FCC and USA do not have to pay the attorney fees, but the part of this document I like is it gives a really good synopsis of what the whole case was. I just like the background part of this document because the original document ruling that the FCC loses was extremely lengthy. And I want to give you guys a better synopsis of what this case is all about and how it applies to the health of you, health of your children, health of animals, and the environment. So background, the history of this litigation is set forth in the panel's opinion, Environmental Health Trust versus FCC, DC Circuit Court 2021. Briefly, the commission's rules specify limits for human exposure to radio frequency emission from FCC authorized equipment above which environmental analysis is required. The commission adopted the limits in 96, relying on the views of federal health and safety agencies. In EMR Network versus FCC, this court affirmed the agency's refusal to reconsider the limits in response to new scientific studies, finding nothing in the studies, quote, so strongly evidencing risk as to call into question the commission's decision to maintain a stance of what appears to be watchful waiting. In 2013, the FCC initiated an inquiry regarding radio frequency exposure limits, notice of inquiry. We continue to have confidence in the current exposure limits, the FCC explained, but given the fact that much time has passed since the commission is the FCC, last sought comment on exposure limits, as a matter of good government, we wish to develop a current record by opening a new docket with this inquiry. The commission stated that it would continue to rely heavily, but not exclusively, on the guidance of other federal agencies with expertise in the health field. The commission terminated its inquiry in 2019. Resolution of notice inquiry. Okay, the Food and Drug Administration, FDA, advised the commission that, quote, the totality of the available scientific evidence continues to not support adverse health effects in humans caused by exposure at or under the current radio frequency energy exposure limits. Okay. On review, in a 2-1 decision, a panel of this court held that the FCC failed to provide a reasonable explanation for its determination that its guidelines adequately protect against the harmful effects of exposure to radio frequency radiation unrelated to cancer. So far, what it's saying is that the FCC reviewed its 1996 rules on what's safe for radio frequency and devices like this, and threw it out. And in 2019, they said, never mind, we're not finding anything, we're throwing it out. And Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and his people brought it back up and said, nah, we're going to appeal this. We think that you should really update your rules on what's really safe with radio frequency. And that was in 2021. And in 2021, the court agreed with the Children's Health Defense Fund and said, yeah, the FCC failed to provide a reasonable explanation for its determination that its guidelines adequately protect against the harmful effects of exposure to radio frequency radiation unrelated to cancer. So maybe the FCC looked at cancer adequately, but all the other harmful effects of radio frequency, they ignored that stuff. The court held, however, that the commission responded adequately to evidence that radio frequency exposure at levels below the FCC's limits may cause cancer. The court also rejected petitioners' National Environmental Policy Act challenges and their other Administrative Procedure Act challenges. As to non-cancer related effects, the panel majority acknowledged that the FCC was entitled to rely on outside experts like the FDA in deciding whether to initiate a rulemaking to modify its radio frequency radiation guidelines. The majority found, however, that the FDA's statements in support of the safety of the commission's guidelines were conclusory and therefore could not supply the reasoned explanation in support of the FCC's decision that the the APA requires. So the FDA gave a conclusion without the reasoning. Basically, FDA said, take our word for it, that our guidelines are still good to go since 96. No reasoning provided. Absent such an explanation from the FDA, the court reads here, the majority stated the FCC must turn elsewhere for the explanation required by law or provide its own explanation. The majority further held that the lack of a reasoned explanation as to non-cancer related health effects undermines the FCC's conclusions regarding the adequacy of its testing procedures, particularly as they relate to children, and its conclusions regarding the implications of long-term exposure to RF frequency, exposure to RF pulsation or modulation, and the implications of technological developments that have occurred since 96. A whole lot of technology has occurred since 96. This radio frequency pulsation question is really interesting, about the fact that it can pulse at higher levels at times, that it's not always the same amount of frequency that's hitting us. Those conclusions depend on the premise that exposure to RF frequency radiation at levels below its current limits causes no negative health effects. Finally, highlighting a letter from the Department of the Interior voicing concern about the impact of RF radiation from the communications towers on migratory birds, the majority held that the FCC completely failed even to acknowledge, let alone respond to, comments concerning the impact of RF radiation on the environment. The panel majority declined to vacate the order. Instead, the majority remanded the matter to the FCC for an agency to provide a reasonable explanation for its determination of its guidelines adequately, that its guidelines adequately protect against harmful effects of exposure and radiofrequency radiation unrelated to cancer. In doing so, the majority emphasized that we take no position in the scientific debate regarding the health and environmental effects of RF radiation. There may be good reason why the various studies in the record do not warrant changes in the commission's guidelines. There was one dissenting judge, talks about the dissenting judge, emphasizing the tentative nature of the evidence before the commission. Judge Henderson would have adhered to the conclusion this court reached in EMR Network that nothing in the record so strongly evidences risk as to call into question the commission's decision to maintain a stance of what appears to be watchful waiting. And she also wrote that the commission, relying on the FDA, reasonably concluded no changes to the current RF exposure limit where warranted at the time. Basically, she's saying the FCC is innocent because they were just relying on the FDA, and they can't control what the FDA decides. But also she's saying there's not really enough evidence that new levels of radiation are affecting human health so far. So there's not really, evidence to say we need to update our guidelines. I mean, cancer is one of the top killers of Americans, and how do we know what's causing that cancer always? Why did someone just suddenly develop cancer? It's hard to pinpoint what caused them to develop cancer, right? And cancer is only one of the alleged harmful effects of radio frequency in regards to both 5G as well as 4G, 3G, 2G. All of those are issues. And so in their in the full legal opinion on this from the judges in the Court of Appeals, they actually listed some of the harmful effects that the petitioners we're arguing we need to make people aware of and allow people a choice, and whether a 5G tower goes up near them, for humans to fully know the potential harm of that. Let me see. I took some notes. Reading from page 10, petitioners point to multiple studies and reports which were published after 96 and are in the administrative record, purporting to show that RF radiation at levels below the commissioner's current limits causes negative health effects unrelated to cancer, such as reproductive problems and neurological problems that span from effects on memory to motor abilities. They cite a 2012 study in regards to that, the study conducted by Cindy Sage and David O. Carpenter, describing evidence that human sperm and their DNA are damaged by low levels of RF radiation. Wow. That is from a 2015 study, Electromagnetic Biology and Medicine Early Online, 2015 study. My goodness. And then there's another study, increased blood-brain barrier permeability in mammalian brain 7 days after exposure to the radiation from a GSM 900 mobile phone. That's 2009 study. Another study, a summary of recent literature on neurobiological effects of radiofrequency radiation, 2018 study. And another one, respective cohort study of adolescents' memory performance and individual brain dose of microwave radiation from wireless communication, 2018 study. Petitioners also point to approximately 200 comments submitted by individuals who advise the commission that either they or their family members suffer from radiation sickness, a constellation of mainly neurological symptoms that manifest as a result of RF exposure. Oh my. So I'm reading straight from the court documents there, and I believe I've linked the court document I just read. The Children's Health Defense Fund, I think they put that court document exactly up on their website. Now, if the court system uses a website called Pacer, you have to create a login and you have to pay for court documents to see them. I like to go verify by logging into Pacer and read these documents myself. The document I just brought up on my screen was the Pacer, straight from Pacer. So reading straight from there. But I think Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s people have made it more easily accessible and free. And I think that's the link that I put down in my description so that you guys can look at this court documentation itself. So here's what the petitioners, the people, are saying. Not so fast, FCC. Let's take a hard look at health effects. These are the list of scientific studies that they're presenting, saying, hey, since you guys made those radio frequency rules for health safety in 96, there's been a lot of technology development and a lot of new studies on the effects on health. And I think we should review these things. And they listed all these studies, some of the studies I just named there. I think there's even more. Yeah, they listed more studies than that. They've got a study on development of cancer in rodents who develop cancer after being subjected to RF radiation emitted from cell phones. Yeah, so there's a lot of studies, and the FCC. So the petitioners had the argument with all these scientific studies. The FCC, I guess, came to the table saying, "Hey, the FDA says that we're good to go," because they came to a conclusion, saying we're good to keep it with the 1996 level. regulations. And so the Court of Appeals said, okay, you lose, FCC. You can't just cite the FDA with no actual reasoning, saying take FDA's word for it. So that's where we're at. And I really haven't heard this in the news, in the mainstream news. There's an alternative news. I guess the Children's Health Defense News and Views, their website, posted an update about their victory in court. The headline: historic win. CHD wins case against FCC on safety guidelines for 5G and wireless. And they have a quote from the lead attorney in the case, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., saying, quote, "The court's decision exposes the FCC and the FDA as captive agencies that have abandoned their duty to protect public health in favor of a single-minded crusade to increase telecom industry profits." Fascinating. That's it was pretty stunning to read through, because honestly, I hear murmurs of 5G, and it just seems a little like a conspiracy theory. But no, I'm reading through this court battle that went on through 2021, where there's all this science listed on the health effects of this radiation, and the FCC ends up losing that court battle. So basically, I think they're going to have to go back and update their health guidelines after all. But what Apple is citing, their little pamphlet here that comes with the iPhone when you get the new iPhone. I guess they're citing current regulations, which are perhaps updated. But here it is. This is apple.com, iPhone 13 Pro Max radio frequency exposure information. And you can see they've got watts per kilogram up to 2.0 watts per kilogram, which is higher than some other devices. Now, I touched on this in a previous YouTube video, and I'm going to show a clip from that YouTube video where I brought up a study I had found. Now these watts per kilogram and what's safe for you has been studied. And in regards to sleep, it turns out that basically, according to the study, if I have this iPhone in my room at night when I'm sleeping, it is enough radio frequency to interfere with my sleep, to hamper a good night's rest. I was like, what? So here's my YouTube where I talked about that. Radio frequency affecting your brain. And I was like, oh, wow, like official scientific studies. Radio frequency electromagnetic field exposure in humans, estimation of the specific absorption rate, distribution of brain effects on sleep and heart rate. And this study literally tells you, that in order to get a good night's sleep, in order for that radiation, of certain devices. Now, this study was done before the iPhone even came about. In 2003, this study came out. But it literally right here, watts per kilogram. So watts per kilogram. So right here is 1.6 watts per kilogram is how much radiation this is putting off. And this is saying that 1 watt per kilogram is enough to affect your sleep. Boom. Yeah. So that Apple website I just showed you actually says that the watts per kilogram goes up to it's up to 2 watts per kilogram that this phone is emitting. And this 2003 study is saying that just 1 watts per kilogram can hurt your sleep. So I really got to get my iPhone out of my bedroom at night. I thought that was all a conspiracy theory. I hear murmurs of this, that, oh, your phone's going to interfere with your sleep somehow. But no, the radio frequency from the phone um, is apparently up to double the amount of radio frequency um, that can affect your sleep, according to this 2003 study. So that's pretty crazy. Got to go back to an old battery powered alarm clock. And honestly, this phone is just it's not any better than the iPhone 10. There's nothing, I'm not seeing anything, it's overhyped from my experience. If I've had this for like a month. And like I said, I turned off the 5G. The 5G wasn't even, the phone worked worse with 5G. So I turned that off. Maybe it was working worse with 5G because 5G isn't fully rolled out. According to the headlines, I guess 5G is going to be fully rolled out on Wednesday. So let me know, you guys, if you feel any sort of radiation. Apparently, the airlines are anticipating that their machines, their airplanes, their technology will feel the radiation strongly. It'll interfere. It will interfere with their frequencies and hamper their ability to safely fly planes. So unless they can seriously work something out between Pete Buttigieg and the FAA and the FCC, then I guess there's going to be a lot of grounded flights in 2 days. So that's it's just really, really interesting. I wonder how much there is a connection there is between the additional radiation affecting airplanes and it affecting our health. Very interesting court case I just showed you guys in regards to human health. And I also got to show you guys this latest research out of China. In China, it is full speed ahead in regards to 6G speed. Chinese lab announces 6G speed breakthrough while the 5G technology hasn't completely rolled out. This is an article published January 6th of this year in the Tech Times. A Chinese government-backed institute called Purple Mountain Laboratories announced that it had made a 6G speed breakthrough. The project was achieved through collaboration along with the country's telecom giants, including Chinese Mobile and Fudan University. And you have to read through the article to get to the bottom where they say that the research group notes that they have started their journey to be able to deliver in 2030. So expect 6G to be available in 2030, according to this article. You guys excited for 6G or what? Interesting times. So here we are with about to get, I guess, full 5G in 2 days rolled out across the country. I myself am going to look for a flip phone. But the thing is, I still have my big old Mac computer. Computers emit the same radiation. So, but I'd just rather switch to a flip phone. I think they're the cool new thing. What do you guys think? I'm reading your comments now. It's like Windows 11 already. Will the glow from 6G be more yellow than green? Are you saying 5G has a green glow? Now, let me just say, apparently, the court documents, I think they talked about people who are radio frequency sensitive. So there are certain people whose bodies react to radio frequency more than other people. And for those people, they should get a heads up, basically. The Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and his people were arguing that those people should, under the Constitution, get a heads up if the neighbor is putting up a 5G tower because it impacts their health. and the court said no, no, it doesn't. That's interfering with the next person's uh, ability to do what they want with their property and put up a tower if they want to. I was just reading the comments, when I was promoting this YouTube live I'm doing now. I was reading the comments. This one lady is apparently one of those radio frequency sensitive people. She says, "I've been suffering with this for 3 years. Severe pain, heart palpitations, insomnia. Anything smart affects me. I have networked with thousands the past couple of years, many smart minds, including an MIT trained scientist. Basically, wireless equals bad because it gives off radiation. Wired internet usually does not bother people like me. Building biology is a whole new field emerging from this problem. Wi-Fi has been banned in most of European public schools as it is a class 2 carcinogen." Wasn't she says, okay, she goes on to some other things about World War II and stuff. But anyway, so that's basically how it affects her health. One of my Facebook followers there. So, some people are really feeling this. And I think I just, it leads me, when I really ponder this, it's like, for a lot of people, like, what about these kids who have ADHD? Why do they have ADHD? Why are there so many kids with ADHD? Does this, this environment of all these freaking devices around us, like, is it affecting people without them knowing it? How do you know why you can't focus? Why you can't sleep well at night? Why you're just feeling off? How do you pinpoint that it's because of this? Why is everyone in my family catching cancer? Not my family, but what, people, cancer is one of the top killers of people. And what is it that's leading that, in our advanced society we have now? Why does cancer seem to be becoming more and more of a problem? And so radio frequency is one of those things where it's hard to pinpoint that was the culprit, right? So it's like, how much has it already been a problem? And the FCC, backed by the FDA, is able to just say, oh no, we're not seeing much evidence, because it's really hard. It's one of those things where it's something invisible. It's hard to tell whether or not that is the culprit. So it's just something to ponder. And it really makes me want to move out to the woods. Deep in the woods, I can see why people have done that. Just like, what, I'm going to just play Little House on the Prairie and build a little cabin in the middle of the wilderness and have a flip phone. Nature sounds great. Anyways, you guys have a great rest of your Monday. We are going to have an update on a popular story that I covered here on YouTube in regards to sexually explicit reading materials in our schools. They were found in multiple Texas schools. Really, really inappropriate reading material for young kids. This dad found that his 14-year-old son was given this inappropriate reading material. So he started trailblazing, and he's making a difference in how other parents can make sure that their schools don't have this inappropriate material. I'm going to have him back on tomorrow if all goes as planned. He'll be back on my YouTube tomorrow, 4 p.m. So stay tuned for that. I'll be dropping another uncensored news report, ivoryhacker.com, link in description. My uncensored website, where I did an interview with a clinical trial participant in regards to a trial on the effects of the I word drug on the treatment of the illness. Yeah, this is stuff we're not allowed to talk about on YouTube, so it's on my uncensored website. Thank you so much for supporting my independent journalism on that website through the $4.99 subscription. And other than that, last little note is that I am meeting with a lawyer this week in regards to defamation against me. Facebook's fact check journalists have written a defamatory fake article misleading the public about what's really going on with elections. I mean, it's a completely factually wrong, unfactual, false headline that they wrote. The numbers I cited were correct. What they wrote was absolutely false, but they said I was lying. So I'm meeting with a powerful attorney this week. Yes, I just had to pay a legal bill to do that this week. So I really appreciate your support and donations down below, because we need to stop these fake fact checkers in their tracks so we can correct history. Like, truth and facts and numbers matter. And the fact checkers are literally spinning in the opposite direction. They're not just putting a fact check label on Facebook. They're actually writing whole articles that are false, untrue. And saying the truth tellers are the ones making things up. They're playing this opposite game hardcore and deceiving the masses about the election. So I'm trying to see if I can take them to court and at the very least, get them to get rid of their fake news articles that they have out there. So meeting with that attorney this week, I'll keep you guys posted on how that goes. I thank you all so much for your support, and hopefully we can just continue getting the truth out there in the face of this monopoly of fake news across America and the world. All the best to you, and we'll see you tomorrow.